So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thursday show here in St Albans. Although I'm not in St Albans, follow me. I am in gorgeous Cyprus. Welcome all. Here we are. Welcome to the Thursday show. That's the gardener, and here we are. So we do everything here in the Thursday show. We have comedy, we have chat, we have all sorts of things. Hello, Christy. We have everything, including the Mediterranean Sea. It's a shame you couldn't see it a bit earlier because we have sunsets right there. Welcome to the Thursday show.
Hey, welcome. Oh, that is brilliant. See, I am so jealous. I am in a rather dull, wet Edinburgh, getting ready for Edinburgh. Yeah, and good news for you. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps, a man whose name sounds like an irritating bowel condition. I've been on the bog all night with the Grant Shapps. Grant Shapps is announced that Cyprus is on the amber list, and because you're double jabbed, you don't need to quarantine when you get back.
That's it. I literally just come back. I mean, like, it's easier for terrorists to come back nowadays. It's so good. I think this is the way it is. But I'll be honest with you, I've got a little confession to make. I know I'm married. I've got two beautiful kids, but while being here in Cyprus, I'm speaking a bit hush hush. I've fallen in love. And yeah, I know it's a bit hush hush. Every time I see it, it just gives me goosebumps. Air conditioning. I love air conditioning. It's the best thing ever. It is like, God, it's 38 degrees outside, but I go back to my hotel room, 15. Wow, this is so good. I even give that little control panel on the wall a bit of a hug, and I have given it a kiss. I would have sex with it. I would have sex with air conditioning and have little air conditioners follow me around everywhere. It's just been amazing. But yes, here I am.
I love it. You know my mate Bruce Fumi.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he was in Australia, and he couldn't get his aircon to work to be cool enough for him. And he went down to reception in his hotel and said, "Look, I don't think the air conditioning's working." And the woman behind reception said, No, it is working. It's limited to 19 degrees Celsius. And we go, what? 19 degrees Celsius? That's fucking hotter than it is in Perth in the summer.
that is summer.
Paphos.
Paphos, yes. I'm in Paphos, and it's let me hold on. Let me give you a little tour of the lobby. There's the reception desk. There's the piano there. There's my pint of beer somewhere around here. There it is. There's my pint of beer, and there's all this stuff going on. This is amazing. The weird thing is, right, is I don't actually like hot weather. I don't swim. I've already got a tan. So the worst possible holiday for me is to sit by a pool in a hot country, right? And yeah, I love Cyprus. It's like the beaches here are amazing. It's so cool. It's so lovely. I also have to say hello, Christy. But yes, perfect holiday. Yes, it is.
It has some interesting like Roman remains and stuff like that. I know, mate. I just be sitting with the people. I'm a grill. Seriously, this is not a joke. Have you seen Paphos TV?
I have, unfortunately.
It's shit, isn't it? And viewers watching the show who are unfamiliar with the town of Paphos in Cyprus, Paphos has a population of 50,000 and not one, but two TV channels of its own. You can imagine how shit both of them are.
Channel 5 looks amazing in comparison. They've got basically it's like Cypriot TV, but it's like everything's like from the 70s. Like you literally you have drag acts, and like it's filmed as like a really shit pantomime. and they talk to each other, and then like the audience applaud, and I was like, I know comedy. That was awful. I was like, gee, where's the punchline in all this? It's just a bloke in a dress. Got you. All right, okay, fine. That's the punchline, is it? Wow, they need to move on. But yes, have you been? Have you been, Brad? You haven't done this in a month and a half. You haven't done this in a month and a half.
Yeah, that's right. We're back in. We're down Brighton. Of course, since then we've had Freedom Day. Well, England has had Freedom Day, which. Boris Johnson was warned by the medical profession not to move too quickly. Nothing to do with the virus. It's just sound medical advice. He's such a fat cunt that any sudden movement could bring on a coronary. No, people said, oh, why are we having Freedom Day so soon? And he said, if not now, when? And he immediately had to self-isolate, which kind of answered the question, really. But it's history, because it is at the end of restrictions, and I think in years to come, kids are going to ask their grandparents, hey, well, what was Freedom Day like, Grandad? Oh, it was marvelous. We could give up giving a fuck about anybody else. We didn't have to have any social responsibility after 18 months. And I went and I rubbed my nose in a bus driver and went into a pub with no mask on and spat at the barmaid. It was absolutely brilliant. Yes, no laws. I mean, Scotland, we're definitely still got laws. But in England, no laws at all. So masks aren't law anymore. There are guidelines being left up to your common sense, which, fair enough, there's been so much common sense shown in the last 18 months that it's worth a try. But on top of that, you think, well, what if we just take this attitude right across the board with every law? If every law just becomes a guideline and common sense, to be honest, I think that's a fucking brilliant idea, because if that's the case, I've got a clean driving license. I was using my common sense to do 80 miles an hour on a B road on my way to a gig, and also use my common sense of thinking I better phone ahead to let the promoter know I might be a little bit late. Other news, Michael Gove and his wife have split up. What a surprise. Michael Gove had a wife. Poor woman. But yeah, we're coming to the end of what has been a long thing. And, you know, the whole thing about the last 18 months has been, some people have had it pretty easy, right? Some people have been paid to sit in the house and do fuck all. Some people have lost their businesses. Let's face it, some people lost their lives. Some people have been mildly inconvenienced. And the people who've been making the most fucking fuss have been the people who've been mildly inconvenienced. Civil liberties getting infringed by not being able to do karaoke. Oh, when am I going to get to go to Cyprus? Now is the answer, and here he is. He is in Cyprus. But yes, as of last Monday, all restrictions, COVID restrictions, were dropped in England. That includes social distancing, face masks, and the use of temperature checks in venues. And this is one that Boris Johnson was particularly keen to get rid of, the temperature check, because he has a bad experience of himself, as we can see from this photograph here. There you go. Yes, very accurate, those guns. Boris Johnson always, he's intended comparing himself to Churchill, isn't he? Like Churchill.
He's fat.
He's fat and he looks like a baby and he's racist. So there you go. There's the three. But I mean, and people actually in World War II fucking hated Churchill. Some kind of history said that, you know, Churchill was Greek. He fucking hated him. But say this for Churchill: he had some good speechwriters and he could remember a script. You know, we will fight them on the beaches was a little bit better than saying, we're going to send the Germans packing. And he didn't say, I'd rather let the bodies pile up. He just let the fucking bodies pile up. But yeah, Johnson wants to control the virus, mainly now through contact tracing. That's the government's one weapon that they have against the virus, contact tracing. And this is quite surprising, given that the Prime Minister himself has struggled in the past to explain to the public what contact tracing actually is.
scaled up testing at a local level, combined with contact tracing, contact tracing, with contact tracing, contact.
That sounds like a man who runs the country.
Yeah, that is so like Churchill, isn't it? The thing is, fucking Churchill was pissed all the time. You think had to play sober when he did that. Yeah. Here in Scotland, we've had a relaxation of many of the restrictions. So we now do have an Edinburgh Fringe coming up a week tomorrow. It starts. I start my show a week on Saturday at the Counting House at 5 p.m. Shameless plug. But earlier on this week, I caught up with one of the cities of Edinburgh's main comedy promoters, Rick Molland, who works in the compares the Monkey Barrel and also runs the Scottish Comedy Festival. I met up with him last week outside the Monkey Barrel, and we had a chat about all things comedy in Edinburgh. And here we are.
I'm outside Monkey Barrel Comedy Club in Edinburgh. We're doing this outside a comedy venue, so members of the public may well come up and ask us all kinds of questions. Yes. Some of us might be able to answer, but it's all right. It's a pre-record, so if anything like that happens, we can just fucking cut it out. I'm here with one of Scotland's top comedy impresarios. Mr. Rick Molland, the man behind the Monkey Barrel, although right now it's behind him, the man behind the Scottish Comedy Festival, and the man behind the Comedy Attic in Edinburgh. So man of many hats. Rick, I want to have you in the show because you were the first venue in Scotland to start again here with Monkey Barrel. Yeah. And, how big's your capacity normally pre-COVID?
Pre-COVID, around about 100.
Around about 100, yeah. With 2 meters distancing, you managed to get 28 people in the venue.
28, 32 at push, yeah. But 28, because it's one of those things where you can go 32, but you need the bookings to come in exactly the right formula. So you just go, so you just go 28.
Of course, yeah. You've got a whole load of couples.
Yeah. It's great. In some venues you can go, oh, get 51 in, but that means you got to sell 17 groups of 3. Yeah. And so it's a very specific thing, and then 2 comes in, it means you can't sell
one double at 51, which would be fucking wonderful.
Absolutely.
I was amazed at how well the gig worked because it didn't actually feel, when we were on stage, didn't actually feel like the room was any smaller because the audience was so well spaced out.
Yeah, it was odd. I think. So obviously we were 2 meter social distance here. Now, as we came back, I'd been gigging down south, and they were 1 meter social distance. So it was odd doing that, and those 1 meter social distance gigs didn't feel any different. Like because whether or not we've been starved at it for a period of time and just doing horrible car park gigs and anything's better than a Zoom gig kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Whether or not that comes back, and you come back a bit, you go, all right, it's 28 people in a room. How's it going to be? And then you're going to get over memory and social awkwardness and things like that and that kind of thing. But then you go, all right, do you know what? This is what I do. I'm back to it. And you go, all right, it's fine. Now, you go over the nerves of coming back. It's like coming back. And it's not like, it's still, what you find is the 28. There's so much goodwill. Yeah. Of everyone wanting to come back, that everybody comes back, and you just go, "This is like this is amazing." So it becomes like a really, really supportive new new material night kind of thing. It's got that kind of feel to it. There's no, you're not getting groups of stag do's and stuff like that. There's no edge to deal with something. But,
well, that's the thing, because a lot of your core weekend trade is stag and hen do's, which of course there's none of them right now.
Well, you can only put a wedding. You can't have a wedding. You can only. I mean, even now, it's only group up to 10. You know, it's only groups up to 10. So you're like, at that point, so it's not. That's the thing. You go, it's back, but it's not. Yeah, it's not what it was. But it's also a nice way to come back.
Absolutely.
Because imagine, you know how crap you were when you came back for the first time.
Well, it all felt a bit rusty. My first gig was Newcastle Stand, but because that was England and they are a big venue, and these sold to 100, and that actually just felt like normal.
It feels like a normal gig, yeah. But so when I think I must have done now because we had what we did because because we had like reduced capacity, we did multiple shows a day to sell the same amount of tickets. So what it meant was, I've come back and as opposed to doing 16 gigs in 8 weeks, I've done 40, 45 gigs. Absolutely. So that's a year's worth of gigs for some people, and you get so when you come back, you go right, and it's nice to come back and remember it when it's easy. Then you know, as opposed to coming back and the first thing you're dealing with is 7 stag do. So in a way, it's been a nice stepped return.
And I think also 28. I know you said 28 is okay if there's only 28 seats in the room.
Yeah.
So you never notice empty space. You notice empty seats.
Yeah. So what was with the 28? It was once you got over it, it was fine. Some audiences were great. Some audiences, you just go, this is like we never went away. Yeah. And then there was 2 other types of audience, right? There was audiences where you just go, wow, you people have not been out the house and don't know how to behave anymore.
There was a bunch of people who came from a town in Fife called Kennaway.
Yeah. And
the reason I know they were from Kennaway was one of them continually shouted throughout the show. He didn't heckle. All he shouted was Kennaway. And I think that's the only time he'd ever been out of Kennaway in his life.
Wow.
Never mind the last.
Like he's just that's whenever he leaves, he just shouts Kennaway until he returns home and he just wants to go home.
Well, the good thing about that show was the opening act was MC Hammersmith, which is he's an improv rapper. As you said, can I have some words from the audience? And this guy shouts, Kennaway! I don't know what you're talking about. Right, so Monkey Barrel back this weekend to 1 meter.
1 meter,
which is going to be great.
We're in a different room, so as opposed to this one, we are over the road, which is it's been a logistical challenge, but it's a squarer room. It's a slightly bigger room, and it means that socially distanced at 1 meter, we can probably at some point get 75, 80 in there, which again, like you say, once you get that critical mass in a room, you're getting back to feeling like a normal gig, hopefully.
Absolutely, totally. And then, of course, getting ready for the Fringe here.
Yeah.
And, of course, at the Beehive Inn, you run the Scottish Comedy Festival.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting one this year, isn't it?
Interesting is interesting is a really weird word for it. I was in a venue manager's meeting the other day, and what was reassuring about it was that I just thought for me, who didn't know what was happening.
Nobody knows.
And then woman who runs the Lady Boys.
All right.
Yeah. That's a massive production, much bigger than my operation. Right. And she asked a question, and I just went, "Oh, we've got exactly the same problem." Like, and the answer was, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know if there's going to be audiences. Anyone watching this, come up to Edinburgh. There's plenty of good shows on. I can recommend 5 p.m. at the Counting House, which is when I'm doing my solo show. Rick is doing, when's your show? You're doing
7:30.
7:30 at the Beehive.
And then Pick and Fringe, 9 o'clock.
Yeah, and I'd love to say the tickets for my show are on sale. They may well be by the time this goes out. So hell, it's taking them weeks, isn't it?
It's taking them weeks, and so basically I've just got, there's been a final on sale thing, and that means that the tickets go on sale on the 29th. So it's like a week before I'm going to do a week, and
how's it taking that long? Because you're all working at the skeleton staff. Yeah, you've got a skeleton program.
Yeah, there's no program. It's just there's no Fringe program. It's just So it's going to be an interesting. I do wonder whether this is like. You always hear about the Fringe back in the day, when like Stephen Fry came up and and you go, I wonder if this is what it was like. There was like no organisation, and the money was taken out of it, and people were just doing shows for the sake of it. And it's going to be a fun. I'm looking forward to the Fringe this year.
I'm looking forward to it because it's less pressured.
It's less pressured. I am the nagging doubt at the back of my head is that. But it's the nagging doubt of COVID. You never know when it's going to return. You never know.
There is that, nagging out of I make it halfway through, then the show's cancelled. Yep.
Yeah.
Good thing is that probably no student theatre productions.
No student theatre productions. There's no flyering on the Royal Mile this year.
Yep.
You can flyer. There's no government direction on flyering, which I just thought was a how are you going to flyer after COVID?
Yeah,
it's like handing little pieces of vaccine to people. Do you know what I mean? It's like the whole thing.
QR code.
Yes, so we've got a QR code. I think QR codes. I think QR codes will be massive this year.
Yep.
I still think there's certain venues that just don't know how they're going to operate. Like I'm really curious to see the Three Sisters.
Yeah, I think they're only using certain rooms.
Yeah, but that is such a hub.
I think it's
such a gathering space, right? So I'm curious to see that. I don't know what's happening with Gilded Balloon. I don't know.
They're doing stuff.
They're doing stuff
at TV, I believe.
Yep.
I don't. It's all the little rooms, which obviously won't happen, and that is what makes the Fringe. I think.
Yeah, we've got 3 rooms at Monkey Barrel. Doing 2 rooms at the Beehive. But yeah, obviously I used to run Nightcap, and that's just a non-starter completely. Once you say social distancing, you go, well, you can put 2 people in the room.
Yeah,
you know.
Great thing about the Beehive this year is, well, not just this year, every year you're right underneath the castle.
Yep.
But this year, no tattoo, which is fucking good news
amazing.
for the person who's got the 10 o'clock.
At 10 o'clock spot, where every spot at 10 o'clock always has to write into their show a fireworks going off or a raid joke, and basically because that no matter where you are, you always complain about nosebleed. I remember a couple of years ago, because we always think with the grass marketers there's a problem with nosebleed, and you kind of complain about it. And then I went to see the Gilded Balloon and watched. I went to watch Jason John Whitehead, and I was like, well, the next show, the next show was so loud he'd had to write into it bits about his show. I was like, oh, nosebleed happens in every venue, but you do think it's like it was only an Espionage, it's only at the Three Sisters, it's like nosebleed from Edinburgh. It's just a loud city at that time of year.
Well, no, you get nosebleed from the room next door. The only way to really get around that is be funnier than the show in the room next door.
Yeah, and time it well. Yeah.
Just get next door to some show that's fucking shit.
Yes, absolutely.
I think the only important from my point of view is, will there be a silent disco this year?
Oh, mate, I mean, you would hopefully, just one, and then, that's where the outbreak of COVID happens.
Wouldn't it be great if you got COVID?
Amazing.
Anyone watching who doesn't know what the silent disco is, it is a disco where you can't hear the music, but you can hear the fucking people taking part, who are led around the city by a guy who looks like Jimmy Savile, who gets them to sing at the tops of their voices outside people's venues.
So last year, year before, everyone wears headphones and people just sing along, and right outside the Beehive with windows open. Yeah. There's a genuine 15-minute rendition of Bohemian Rhapsody, and you're just going like, how do you deliver jokes over that? Like,
you can't. Yeah. I say he looks like Jimmy Savile. I find Jimmy Savile easier to forgive. Listen, Rick, it's been an utter joy talking to you. Final plug once for the Scottish Comedy Festival.
Come down to the Beehive from the 6th through to the 30th, not the 9th and 10th, because what they've done this year is the announcement doesn't come to the 9th. So the Fringe happens. That's the weird thing about this year, is the Fringe happens, and then there's an announcement, and then you've got to maybe rearrange the Fringe again.
Well, hopefully, to get more people in.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Cheers, Rich. Have a great Fringe.
Cheers, mate. You too.
Great talking to you.
Hey, I realised all the way through that interview, I look like one of those dogs you get on the back shelf of a car.
Yes.
Constantly nodding my head. Fucking hell. That's why I've never done much telly, right? This show, ladies and gentlemen, is free to watch. It's not free to make. So if any of you would like to just put a small donation, roughly, large donation if you really want to. There we are. PayPal stroke Free Fest Online. All we now are in the 21st century and have a QR code. So if you want to stick your phone and scan that QR code that's kind of roughly round about my chin, that will take you straight to the... I'm trying to avoid the QR code. That will take you straight to the donation line. A couple of comments we've had from some regular viewers. Christy Shields, Hi, Christy. How is it tomorrow morning in Melbourne? She says, yeah, she's 2 days out of lockdown. Fucking brilliant. Well done. Absolutely. Yeah, they've, oh, thank you. I'm very groovy here. Well, you get the full benefit of it when you see me nodding like a dog, Christy. Hopefully see you next year. Yes, Jason says, bring back lockdown. It means I get to watch you every Thursday. Fucking hell, Jason. You must have had a really fucking dull 18 months. Now, I appreciate Jay. Jay's one of our regular viewers and always very supportive. Jay and Christy. Yeah, so if you want to join Jay and Christy and make a small donation, we would very, very much appreciate that. We're going to move swiftly on, aren't we, Jay?
Yes.
Yeah.
It always gives me great pleasure when I introduce very funny comedians. I take my comedy very seriously, and this next guy, I love it. I just embrace the chaos, and I'm looking forward to this. So, ladies and gentlemen, we get a beautiful chance to actually interview the one and the only Mr. Darius Davies.
Woo! Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you for the nice intro, Jay.
Bless you. Because I phoned you up earlier on today, and I was sitting there racking my brains. When was the last time we saw? I remember we did some gig in the countryside somewhere, and there was deer around and whatever it was, and it was crazy.
I can't remember.
But I also remember you were in the final of the Laughing Horse competition some years ago back.
I was in that final. I didn't win. I've been in. I think I was in all of those finals at one time or the other, and I never won any of them. But I got to the. I took part, and in 2021, the taking part and quitting due to mental health issues is what counts, which is why I didn't win.
The thing is like competitions are competitions. If you win, great, it's fantastic. If you don't, I never won any of the competitions or anything like that. I realized one thing is it never really hampers your career. It only hampers a certain element, which is a very tiny element of it all, and you can override that as well. So
yeah, I mean, well, with the benefit of hindsight, I don't think it hurt in any way. I think it was, it was good just to get to the final. It's kind of prestigious at the time, but when you don't win, you say, this is the end of the world. Can I continue on this comedy journey? I've got this amazing 5 minutes of material, and eventually you get to the point that maybe you need more than 5.
I've been there as well, my friend. I've been there. It's good to chat to you, my friend. So how was lockdown for you? What happened? It was shit for every other comedian, but we all started doing all this stuff. What did you have to do? How did you get through it?
Well, I mean, I was in Australia just when lockdown was happening. And my sister was working for Qantas at the time, and she got me like a last-minute flight out of Australia. And I curse her every day for doing that because I could have had lockdown in Australia. But I didn't do much, man. I didn't really do any online gigs. They didn't appeal to me. I did maybe a handful of them, and they all went surprisingly well. But I didn't really do them. When it turned out that comedy wasn't, happening for a long time, I got a job working as a teacher of all things, but teaching kids who've been excluded from schools. So basically it was the blind leading the blind. So it was pretty good.
I know. What did you have to teach them? Was it just kind of like
English, maths, biology? And they said, Darius, do the maths GCSEs. I said, listen, you don't want me doing maths GCSEs. So I taught English, but really what I saw my job as was because these kids are like, they're being excluded. They've been very serious kids. So for me, my job was more to just get them engaged with education. And then if they can learn something great, and a few of them did. So actually the money wasn't great, but it was a kind of worthwhile job. Like when I taught some kids and they did something good, it felt good. And then another benefit was these kids Skype lessons all the time and I get paid either way. So that was great.
Oh, that's such an admirable thing. That genuinely is an admirable thing. Look, I was a bit of a troubled kid at school. I was a bit of a swot, but I was like a bit of a troubled kid and got excluded. I literally got kicked out of my first secondary school.
Wow.
The second school I went to, I think in fact I just fancied one of the other students that sort of like got me back on straight and narrow road. But but no, it's an admirable thing. And you've also done quite a few podcasts and stuff. I know both yourself and our next guest, Leo. So you've been doing sort of like all sorts of podcasts and stuff, and
Yeah,
I've listened to people. They've been fascinating. They've been interesting. They're a lot of fun.
Thank you. So Leo and I, along with another comedian called Nico, we do a podcast called the Three Speech Podcast, and the tagline is like a light-hearted poke at the woke, and it's been like really well received, and it's an interesting. We discuss the topics. The difficulty is what I've learned now, or what we've learned is that getting everyone at the same time to be able to do the podcast is proving difficult, but we keep on going. It's been moderately successful, so that's an enjoyable podcast.
What do you really talk about in the Three Speech? Is it because I do know you talk about like poking fun at woke, the woke generation, as it were. But what else? Because you talk, I know Leo will talk about this, or Vlad will talk about this a little bit later. But he ran for Scottish Parliament and so on and so forth. And I know like that he had all sorts of issues with his flyers and so on and so forth, and got cancelled. And I had one of his shows cancelled in Australia some time ago. But in terms of free speech, I'm an advocate of free speech. You should be able to say anything you want to, irrespective of offence or whatever. And is this like when I watched one of the podcasts that you three did, it was brilliant because it was almost like no holds barred. You could literally talk about anything you wanted to talk about.
I mean, we discuss everything. Leo says it best, and he'll probably say, when it comes to free speech, especially in comedy, you don't need to put rules and regulations on it because we have that every single day we go on stage, and it's the audience. If they laugh or they don't laugh, then you've been judged, and you know where it's too far to go. So we're not arguing for like, oh yeah, we want to go out. This is the people deliberately people conflate. They say, oh, you wanna go out and just be racist and say hate. No, we don't. Obviously not. No one wants to say hate speech and all right, but there's already crimes. That's already a crime, right?
Correct.
We just it's already again. If you do say hate, it's already a crime. We're just saying, listen, the world's gone a little bit crazy, and it's worthwhile taking a step back and just looking like, okay, if we give all these corporations, Facebook, Twitter, and the government all these like powers, yeah, at first they're going to be used for good and against people you don't like, but eventually that ball swings the other way and it'll be used against you, and it won't be used by someone's good. And if they think it's all la-di-da, we can look to China, where we're a few years behind them. But you know, this is just we're just like a lot of people. I'm not like, you know, I am actually out of line. I am a conspiracy theorist. I'm not gonna lie, I am a conspiracy theorist. I think 9/11 was an inside job, and I think vaccine passports are a terrible idea. That's where I'm coming from. Look, vaccine, great. Vaccine passport, no.
Yeah. Look, I think one of the things that I picked up from it in the fact that I love comedy, and indeed both yourself and Leo and every guest that we have on the show.
I just want to correct you on that, Jay. I actually hate comedy, but continue.
All right, then fuck you. The one thing is, I love comedy, and I think one of the things that it takes a skill to say whatever you want to say and make it funny. And I love comics who push it towards that edge and make an audience laugh and get them to understand a point of view that other people will just shut down straight away. And the fact that you can actually allow this as a platform to be able to do this is one of the things that makes comedy such a great art form. And I genuinely sort of want to tune in more and sort of like say, if you ever need a guest on your Free Speech podcast, I'm free.
Jay, we'd love to have you. But at the moment, we just need to be able to get ourselves into the studio to record. But interestingly, what you just said there about comedians walking the line and say, that's basically the premise of the show that I do with Leo, which is going up to Edinburgh this festival with Alex Petty and Laughing Horse, which is Hate and Live. And I open that show and I say, listen, the skill in this show is saying the unsayable, making it funny, and still being able to work tomorrow. And that's why it's such a fun show. So like, I don't know if anyone's interested, but we've already sold out, like most of our weekends already sold out before we've even got there. There's an appetite and desire because people see they're bored of all this like curated nonsense and diversity politics, for want of a better word. Like you turn on, like I'm Iranian, right? But even I turn on, so my dad's brown, right? It's the same color as you, Jay, right? I turn on the TV and I was like, oh, look at this lovely multiracial couple. Oh, look at this lovely bisexual multiracial couple. Look at this trans, like just they're just so like now just brands co-opting everything, and it's so obsequious. And I can't believe if I was like I am part of it. I'm Persian, and I'm like, why are you? This isn't what's. Why are you trying to sell me your shitty merchandise by like co-opting this movement? And that really infuriates me. But anyway. To bring the rant down, you're welcome on the podcast. Hate and Lad's a very funny show where we invite comedians to hate on topics suggested by the audience.
You ever need someone for Hate and Live? I'm not going up to Edinburgh this year, but there it is. There it is.
Hate and Lad.
It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure, even though it's been a very long time since we last chatted to you. But it's a pleasure. Been looking forward to this interview. Stick around, Darius. We've got plenty more to come along. So let's bring back Vlad. There you go.
That was brilliant. Great seeing Darius again. In fact, the last time I saw Darius was the last night of the Adelaide Fringe, and none of us had a fucking clue how we were going to get out of Australia. I actually left on my scheduled flight on Qatar Airways, and in the seat pocket in front of me, there was a face mask. I thought, oh, that's very nice of Qatar Airways to supply a face mask, and I put it on. And then realized no one else on my flight was wearing a face mask. And I think I was wearing somebody else's face mask that Qatar Airways hadn't cleaned out of the seat pocket. Anyway, don't worry. It was 16 months ago and I'm still here. Can't smell anything, can't taste anything, but fuck it, I'm still alive. Darius Davies and the marvelous Leo Kearse are hating live at 10:30 at Three Sisters, which seamlessly brings us on to our next guest. I have been so much looking forward to having this guy on the show. He's a comedian I've loved ever since I first saw him perform. He's just utterly left field. He's absolutely brilliant. Despite the fact that me and him have polar opposite political views, he just is a fucking funny guy. And a lot of people, a lot of comedians kind of were twiddling their thumbs over the last few months when they couldn't do gigs. This guy took the bull by the horns, thought, right, I can't gig, I'm going to stand for election to the Scottish Parliament, which is fucking, you've got to take your hat off to the guy. He is absolutely brilliant. He's absolutely hilarious. It is a real joy to welcome onto the Thursday show the marvelous Leo Kearse.
Hello.
Hey, Leo. How are you, mate? It's so good to see you, man.
I'm good, thanks. It's good to see you. Thanks for that intro. That was like, man, that was the nicest thing anybody said about me. Certainly over the last year.
You know, you and I mean, we're not going to pretend we agree politically, but I love what you do because it's fucking funny. And like Darius was saying, it's all jokes.
Yeah.
And, you know,
I mean, you say we disagree politically, but I think we probably agree on a lot of things. Like, you're probably a lot more right-wing than you think. Like, do you like paying tax?
Nah.
Yeah, you don't like paying tax? Do you like being told what to do and having your life controlled?
Well, you know, it depends what. I mean, I'm married, so I'm fucking used to it now.
Yeah, but that's you make a choice to enter a marriage. You don't like, you know, you don't like with some governments you don't get a choice to like, governments in the West are becoming much more authoritarian. Like Darius said in his thing, you know, China's a few years ahead of us. But over the last like few decades, the thinking was that as China got richer and got, you know, a middle class intelligentsia, that they'd just naturally gravitate towards Western democracy. And instead, you know, what we've seen in China is people would rather feel safe than or have the illusion of safety than be free. And it's the same over here. Like if lockdowns showed us anything, it's that people would rather have the illusion of safety than have their freedoms and their rights. And these are basic human rights that are enshrined in, you know, the United Nations Charter of, you know, human rights. These are, you know, the freedom to associate with who you want, to travel, you know, all the rest of it. And it's been taken away from us, and it's part of there's a whole raft of legislation, also cultural movements that are coming through to remove our individual rights that are really, really, really concerning. And hopefully everybody, regardless of whether they vote Tory or they vote for some ridiculous party, hopefully they can all be be worried about it. Actually, the Tories are the worst. The Tories are bringing through like the policing bill and all this stuff is ridiculous. The online harms bill, online safety bill.
Great example, I mean, is Russia. Because let's face it, Russia's never had freedom, has it? They had the Tsars, then they had the communists, and now they've got Putin. You think, fucking hell. Yeah. And people voted for Putin because they wanted to be controlled, didn't they? Absolutely.
They wanted, I mean, and Russia kind of needed a strong leader. It's just, if you get, in the West, we tend to assume that democracy is so strong. It's like an undefeatable system, but it's really not. In Russia, I mean, places like Russia and Iraq, where there's more turmoil, and perhaps the economy is based more on resources and exports rather than services, and having a strong legal system that allows you to start a business and put capital here and know that capital is safe. So places like Russia do need a sort of strong leader to make that happen. But obviously then you've got this strong leader who's got all this power, and as we've seen in Russia and as we're going to see in Scotland, having a government with absolute power isn't healthy for economically, in terms of the government leads to inefficiencies and corruption and graft, and it's not healthy culturally. I mean, the SNP, I've been called out for saying this. Like, the stands say that they don't have any bias, and they book diversity of opinions. They don't book me, but like
right.
The stand.
They don't book you because of your opinions. Have you been told that?
Well, man, like, I'm gigging for everybody else. You know what I mean? I think why would you not book me? Like, I'm obviously I'm not to everyone's taste, but I'm to most. There's not many clubs in the country that don't book me. You know what I mean?
Just comment
the Standard directly owned by the SNP, and having a government-owned comedy club, it just blows my mind.
It's not government-owned. It's the major shareholder is a member of parliament. He was
a member of the government. I mean, Putin's not in charge anymore. He's actually the prime minister instead of the president now. So
Well, do you know what funded? And this is true. Do you know what funded the opening of the stand?
Probably Margaret Thatcher.
No, Tony Blair. Because Tommy Shepherd, before he was a member of the SNP, was a member. He was the Assistant General Secretary of the Labour Party in Scotland, and he was of the on the left party. And Tony Blair wanted rid of him, so Tony Blair got him sacked as Assistant General Secretary of the Labour Party, and gave him a big enough redundancy payment for him to open a comedy club.
That's fantastic.
So I think that kind of is free speech in action. I mean, I take what you're saying. They have booked Andrew Lawrence, who's far to the right of you.
So are they still booking him?
I don't know if they still are, but they definitely were. And I know they book people like Jeff Norco. But do try and get on there, mate, because you are fucking great. But let's talk about the election, because I genuinely am absolutely intrigued as to why you did it. I mean, as a comic, I have to ask this question: did you do it as a joke, or was it really serious?
No, you can't really run as a joke. It's a very serious thing. And also I don't know if you saw the platform I was standing on. Unfortunately, not a lot of people saw the platform I was standing on, because there are 300,000 leaflets. There was some sort of mix-up between the printers and the Royal Mail. When you're relying on the government controlled state, enterprises to deliver your election leaflets. I mean, I'm not saying we're like Russia, but that's Navalny wouldn't rely on Putin to deliver his. Wouldn't rely on the Russian post service to deliver his leaflets. But yeah, so my leaflets didn't go out, which completely scuppered my case, because all I really wanted to do, I wasn't running to win. Obviously, Hamza Yusuf was in a very safe seat. He's the Justice Minister. He's moved on to be the Health Minister now, so expect to see Scottish health get even worse than it is now. But he was in a safe seat, so I was running to raise awareness of this really pernicious legislation that's coming through, the Scottish Hate Crime Bill, which it criminalises. It's not like it just does one thing that's bad. Like, it criminalizes private conversations in your own home. It adds to the list of protected characteristics. So, like, so for example, if you call someone a wanker, that's a hate crime, because they could be asexual, and that's mocking their asexuality. And it really just, it's such a sort of unnecessary. We've already got plenty of legislation around speech that restricts what we can and can't say. We don't really need anything that's going to make it, especially something that affects private speech in your own home. That should be your own domain. That's not in the domain of the government. And I'm considered right wing for trying to stop that. That's like stopping government involvement in people's lives is literally fighting the roots of fascism and Nazism.
Well, what kind of I don't understand about it, and I'm coming at it from the same perspective as you are here, is how do you actually police that?
Well, you can see how they police it with. So I don't know if you've heard of Marion Miller. So she's a feminist. She's also a mother of autistic twin boys. And she was arrested and charged for a tweet. But this wasn't under the hate crime bill. This was under the Public Order Act of 1996 or something. So it's got like provisions in it for like abusive or offensive speech or whatever. So it's, all this stuff is always really vaguely worded, so it can be misapplied very easily. But I mean, she was literally sort of grabbed off the street and bundled into a van, like Handmaid's Tale style, because of this tweet that she sent. And the tweet didn't say anything horrific. The tweet was a picture of a suffragette ribbon. So easily recognizable. Suffragette ribbon is widely known. Everybody knows what a suffragette ribbon is. They tie them to railings and stuff. A sign of feminism. But because she's a gender critical feminist, which I don't necessarily agree with what she's saying. I think she's got a right to say it and a right to be heard. Because she's a gender critical feminist, this was reported as a hate crime because they said that the suffragette ribbon could be construed to be a noose, even though it looked nothing like a noose. And because of that, the police arrested her, and she's being charged. Her court date was supposed to be on the 20th of July, but it's been pushed back to August. So it'll be interesting in the Fringe to see what happens. I mean, that's really a sort of real life example of how this legislation affects people. If that tweet shouldn't be a crime, that it's so far away from the boundaries. And I know in court the judge is going to say this is so far away from being a crime, but it's the intimidation, it's the state intimidation of like putting her through that process. She's got autistic kids who are terrified. She's terrified. She's taken into custody. It's really horrific. This isn't happening in like Belarus or Iran. This is happening in Scotland right now. And I'm really surprised more people aren't worried about this.
Yeah, that does strike me as being incredibly extreme, given that I know a number of people who have been actually the victims of hate crimes on social media, who have not received the amount of police protection they deserve. It's very arbitrarily apportioned. It's usually used just if it's the state wanting to make a point or make a scapegoat of someone. Or, because we've got an incredibly biased government as well. You can see with, I was on the Kenmure Street protest, not as a protester. So at Kenmure Street, there's the Home Office turned up to deport some illegal immigrants. And whatever the rights and the wrongs of that, there are rules and, people sometimes get deported. So protesters turned up to stop it. I turned up to try and make it happen. No, I'm joking. I just turned up because it was outside my mum's house. And I was going for a walk and I was like, whoa, what are all these, why is there so many hippies here? You know what I mean? But
so the SNP, the government, said nothing about that. They praised it. They said it was great, and this was tightly packed people in Scotland's major COVID hotspot. Whereas
I diverge from you on that, in that I did agree with the Premiership protest. However, within that, as you say, every single COVID rule was broken.
Yeah, and then you know, just like a few days later, the Rangers fans coming together to celebrate whatever they're celebrating were condemned. And it's like, so why is it bad when Rangers fans do it? Like, if it's a medical thing, if we're talking science and how the disease transmits, it's the same as, you know, the Black Lives Matter demonstrations. Nobody criticised, none of the doctors came out and criticised them. But then anti-lockdown demonstrations, all the doctors come out and say, "Oh, you're destroying, you're killing people." It's like, well, how can they be different? How, like, you know, if we're talking science, the disease doesn't know the political reason people are at the demonstration. The disease just transmits.
Yeah. Again, I diverge from you about the Rangers fans. Having hated every last minute of last season as a Celtic fan, I think fucking the rest of them. Anyway, I really am interested, though, as to how much did it cost you? That's the real thing. Because do you have to put down a deposit? Like you do?
Yeah, I can't remember. The deposit was like 500 for the like constituency and 500 for the region, and in total it cost about, I don't know, 20 or 30 grand.
Fuck's sake! And at the time you thought there's going to be no Edinburgh Fringe. I can afford to lose money on something, and now there is an Edinburgh Fringe, so you can lose 30 grand all over again twice in a year.
Yeah, no, like, I mean, I don't know. The Edinburgh Fringe always always seemed to make money at it, even when I went on the paid Fringe, which was a huge mistake. Like in 2019, because we always used to do it with Laughing Horse, and it was just so good. Like, you know, the rooms that like that Maggie's chamber for Hating Live was just perfect. So we took it because we wanted to film. Maggie's chamber is, you know, kind of tricky for sightlines for filming, but we wanted to film a pilot for TV. So we went to the caves, but yeah, geez, it was you know, it was a mistake leaving the free Fringe, and yeah, it wasn't as much fun. And we had some really good shows, obviously, and we got good footage. And also I took my solo show to the Gilded Balloon, and yeah, that was one of, like, if we want to talk about financial disaster, instead of making money on the free Fringe and having like really fun shows, you know what I mean? Instead of doing that, the Gilded Balloon, I sold like I think it was 12.5 grand's worth of tickets, and I got £0.
Absolutely, but you're back at the Free Princess. You know, you're doing.
Oh yeah, the prodigal sons have returned.
Are you doing a solo show too?
Yeah, so I'm doing a solo show called Cancel Culture, which is about there it is. Yeah, it's on at 6 p.m. at the Three Sisters. So yeah, just a few hours before Hating Live, which is in the same venue, and yeah, it's getting a lot of coverage, I think, you know, and it's selling really well this year. So it's going to be a good year. But it's getting a lot of coverage. I'm on Good Morning Britain tomorrow, and then I'm on GB News on Saturday.
And you're on the first show tonight, so there you go.
yeah, and this as well.
We are kind of. I could talk about this all night, man. But we are very much battling against the clock. We're going to all come together, all the guests, for the next part of the show. Oh, no, we will not fuck that up. No, we still get another interview. Leo, we're going to have a game later on, but I'm going to hand you back to Jay, who's going to do our next interview. Cheers, mate. See you in about 10 minutes.
Bless you.
Bless you. At the end of that, right?
Yes. No.
Dave Chawner was back in the room.
Exactly. Well, speaking of Dave Chawner's fucked off. He didn't do it, but he did. We let him have a go. We let him have a go at doing one of the interviews, and he's interviewed one of the sort of guests that we've had on the show a couple of times before, Ollie Horn. So this is Dave Chawner interviewing Ollie Horn, and you'll understand the connection between all three of them a little bit later. So here is Dave Chawner.
Really excited to have a returning guest on the show today. It is the wonderful Ollie Horn. Now, Ollie, I think with the Tokyo Olympics coming up, and someone that obviously lives in Japan, speaks Japanese. Is that true? You speak Japanese, by the way?
Oh yeah. And I learnt Japanese at school only because my school, you had to take 2 languages, and I fell out with the Spanish teacher, and I didn't like the fact that she was, the polite way to put it is, elderly and dressed as if she were a TikToker 15 years ago, before that existed. And I always had my suspicions about her. And but 5-6 years ago, in the local paper, there was some story about a death and a sex ring, and her name came up. So in a way, my sixth form instincts, well, not even sixth form, my GCSE instincts were correct. So anyway, so I asked if I could stop doing Spanish. I know this wasn't the question, but it is interesting.
I love this.
I asked if I could stop doing Spanish. They were like, yeah, but you've got to do another language. I was like, okay, fine, German. I don't care. I'll do it, do it just for a year, then drop it, as everyone does. Picked Japanese, and then ended up realizing it was actually easier than the other languages, in the sense that it's not because it's such a difficult language. The GCSEs and the A levels are like way easier. Whereas in French, you've got to talk about why Albert Camus' philosophy is good or bad. In Japan, it's like if you can just hold a pair of chopsticks, they give you a C. So that's a little cat there that's going.
Guest appearance from Matilda. There, we've got to explain Matilda.
Well, and so that's why I carried on with Japanese, and I was really keen to get to uni, and I needed an A grade, so I was like, right, I'll stick with it. So I learned Japanese that way, and then went to Japan, then learned to speak it by working on the radio out there. So yeah, long story short, I'm now out of Japan. I'm back in the UK, but I still continue to do a podcast with my good friend, an American guy who lives in Japan, called Japan by River Cruise.
It's a brilliant podcast, and I absolutely do love it. I've got to ask, are you ever going to do an Eddie yourself? Do you ever do Japanese speaking gig?
Oh well, it's funny. Bobby and I did try and do stand up in Japanese, and we even did a couple of little tours, and we did some opening for some Japanese acts. Generally, it went badly. And in fact, with the Free Festival a couple of years ago, my Japanese friend, who's a comic that's learning his trade in English, came to the Fringe and opened for me for 10 minutes a day. This was 3-4 years ago now. And as a one-off, Alex put on a Japanese show. And it was really funny outside the counting house on that one day. There was a long queue outside, and it was a lot of Japanese people, and then about a third nerds. And it was just very obvious, what the audience was and where they needed to head.
That is brilliant. Well, I know you've mentioned it. If anyone watching, I'm sure they'll have seen it before, but give us a quick explanation of what Japan by River Cruise is.
Oh, well, so we're a podcast that we claim to be about the Japanese river cruise industry. But what it actually is a series of guests that we get on each week, which are experts in Japan. And it's basically a way of, Japan's such a difficult country for an outsider to understand. And so what we do is we, rather than kind of do the whole, Japan, a mysterious country full of tradition and modern and this kind of Orientalist bullshit, we kind of treat Japan as a country like any other, get experts on to just explain things. So like the economy, politics, and of course, latterly, we've spent the last 6 months talking about the Olympics a lot and why Japan is carrying on with the Olympics even when it shouldn't. We looked at some of the legal aspects of the contract between Tokyo and the IOC. We looked at Japan's kind of history of kind of lying about numbers to save face, which is quite a Japanese thing to do, it seems. And so the podcast in the last year has really kind of come into its own, that we have lots of really interesting guests that are keen to share their wisdom, and Japan's kind of in the spotlight internationally.
That's one thing that I wanted to ask, and this is probably like an offensive question. I don't mean it to be, but is Japan as like a government up to scrutiny? Are they okay with that, or are there repercussions?
It's a really good question, and particularly interesting in the context of comedy, that there isn't that much political comedy. I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, Japan's an apolitical nation." Japanese people aren't politically engaged, and while that's possibly true to the extent that it's true in lots of other countries, most people only think about who they're going to vote for the day or two before they poll. What is true is that there does seem to be a little bit of apathy for change of the incumbent government, which has basically been the same party for a very, very long time. And the kind of people that get into power at the top do kind of seem to be cut from the same cloth. And they're, for what it's worth, we on the podcast we've covered 3 or 4 corruption scandals, which basically just get brushed under the carpet or brushed under the tatami to localize it. So Japan, just like every other country, has political problems. I think part of the issue with the Olympics is there's 3 or 4 different moving parts. There's the national government, there's Tokyo Metropolitan Government, and there's the IOC, the Olympic Organizing Committee. And one joke we enjoy making a lot is that the IOC is run by Dick Pound, who legally has Tokyo over a barrel. And the reason for that is Tokyo can't really back out of this contract without losing a lot of money, and basically follow the money, right?
Wow. Well, going from tatami to tartan, you're going up to the Edinburgh Fringe. Did you like that? I've had that in my mind. Like, I'm not gonna lie. As soon as I came up with that, listen to nothing else.
Shut
up. Oh my god, so bad. You are going up to the Edinburgh Fringe.
Yeah.
What a weird year to go. How are you looking forward to it? Have you written a lot? Have you not? Where are you at?
Well, it's such a difficult question to answer, and my feeling about it changes every day. Have I written a lot? Yes, I've got new material since my last show, because as we talked last time on the show, I was stuck out in Malaysia for a lot of the pandemic, where comedy clubs had reopened. So I developed a new 20 minutes, which I was using regularly there. So obviously bits of that I can use. It's one of these things that when I had that chat with Alex, maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago now, it seems like ages ago, obviously I thought, well, I'll obviously get an hour together because I've got that material, right? But what I haven't had is lots of opportunity to preview it, because still comedy clubs are running at reduced capacity. I've had a lot else going on, and so my fear is, in all other respects, it's going to be a great Fringe. I think audiences are going to be up for it. I think it's going to be well run because of the ticketing thing, having people. So a lot of it is good, and a lot of my friends have already sold out their first few nights. Not my audience. We've sold out the first night. The solo show is sold out. The only thing that's missing is a show that I've got confidence in. And I think, and I'm just hoping that I find my groove in the first couple of days. The audiences in the first few days are going to be quite forgiving, and I think I'm going up there with the attitude that I don't have to produce this amazing finished product that I'm showcasing. Actually, my job is, there are people that haven't been to comedy clubs for 18 months. This might be their first time out. I can't be too serious. I've just got to give them a laugh.
That's mental. You're absolutely right. There are going to be people that are like 16, 17, 18, where this could probably be their first time watching comedy. Okay, so say someone is watching and they're like, oh, I want to go there. Edinburgh's there. What would you say to get them into your show?
Oh, well, what I'd say is, if you're in Newtown, it's the only venue that's open. Other than the Stand, and most of their shows have sold out. What I'd say is, I am normally good at stand-up. In normal circumstances, I'm good at it. So I'm hoping that I'll be good at it this year. And the show is not going to be this kind of earnest, talking about someone dying and a lot of the tricks that we pull. I am just going to do my best stand-up along with some of the new material, and I'm going to talk about what happens when you let yourself try new things. And I think that's what a lot of us have gone through over the last couple of years. We've tried new things that we weren't expecting to, and I've got some funny stories about when I've done that and it's obviously gone wrong.
I absolutely love this. So final question would be, what is your favorite new thing that you've tried that you think you'll stick with?
Well, owning a cat. I think I had no ambition of owning a cat. A stray cat in Malaysia came to my Airbnb and just walked in as if she owned the place. And I thought, you can't do that. But then I remembered what our ancestors did to the Malaysians. So I was like, okay, fair enough. Come on. And I absolutely fell in love with it. And I've never taken responsibility for anything in my life, not least my health. So looking after a little kitten and feeding it and spending more money on food than I was spending it on myself, because I was quite poor, it taught me a lot about what love can be.
Oh, well, just know, is Matilda around? Or
yeah, Matilda's.
The
thing is, if she does another appearance, you're not going to have to pay her a fee.
Oh, there she is. She gets a.
She wants to show you her bumhole. There we go, Matilda. You're absolute pervert, aren't you?
Funny enough, that's how I was going to finish this interview, showing my bumhole. So she beat me to it. Well, Ollie Horn, what absolute pleasure. Final thing, give us a plug for your podcast for everywhere that everyone can find you.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So japanbyrivercruise.com for the latest river cruise information in Japan. And my show is called Before After, and it's at the Laughing Horse at the Hanover Tap every day at 6 o'clock during
Boom.
August.
Before After, Hanover Tap, 6 o'clock. Be there. Ollie, thank you so
Thanks,
much.
man.
Hey,
Oh,
great to see you, Ollie. Yeah.
it's good seeing Dave too. It's good seeing Dave too. There you go.
What a great show. And we still have, as I flagged up earlier, we've still got a couple of games. So we're going to get everyone back on the screen. And we're going to do a game all about the Edinburgh Fringe. And this game is, oh, yeah. Well, let's see if Matilda can get any of these. Fringes. You have to guess who these comedians are by their fringe.
Here we go. So let's go in
That's
number
not
one.
fair because Leo doesn't have any hair.
Yes.
Loads of hair, Ollie.
Trevor Lock. Trevor Lock.
It's close.
Yeah, Trevor Lock has more hair.
It's not Rick.
It does look like Trevor Lock, though. Dave Green.
Anna Gadsby.
Trevor Lovely Locks.
Paul. Joe Paul.
Julie,
Dave Green.
Susan McCabe.
Oh, I know. It's Jarlath Regan.
Jarlath Regan.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Don't know it. Yeah. Points. Next one.
Second one.
Russell Brand.
Mickey
Flanagan.
Yeah. Darius.
We all thought it was Mickey Flanagan.
Mickey Flanagan.
Yeah, no.
Darius Davies.
Russell Kane.
Russell Kane. Bonus point if you can let us know how old he claims to be.
42.
Fuck knows.
That's his actual age. What does he claim to be?
56, isn't he? Right.
Leo's just turned 32.
Right.
I've got loads of hair.
Yeah. I just turned 32. But,
I had a hair transplant.
Did you?
Yeah.
I was thinking of becoming a hair donor.
And I might need a hair transplant. I think this is all linked in. I see what's happening here. This is like
I think Russell Kane's a fucking face transplant in that photo, isn't it? Anyway, moving on. Who is this? Mickey Flanagan.
Lou
No,
Sanders.
Lou Sanders.
Lou Sanders is correct. Lou Sanders. Now this is the tricky one.
John French.
Oh,
John French. Well done.
there you go.
This is easier than Dave Chawner thought it was going to be.
Oh,
That girl.
Maisie Adams.
That's right. Maisie Adams. Yes.
Maisie Adams it is. Well, you're pretty good at this. There you go. There you go. And it's not Mickey Flanagan.
B.
Ashlyn B. Yes, it is Ashlyn B.
Yeah.
Very
Well
good.
done. Well done, everyone. It's
Susan
Zoe Lyons.
Susan McBall, whatever her name is. Susan Coleman.
Zoe Lyons.
Susan
Yeah.
McBalls. Susan McBalls. I think that's the new name for her now. I think that's it.
Ollie Horn.
no.
It's our final one.
Julian Dean.
No, what's the name of the doctor who does the characters?
No.
He's on
Larry Dean
TV.
was close in terms of nationality.
Mark Nelson.
But no.
No. You stumped
Gary
him.
Meikle.
You stumped.
No.
He's Scottish. He's Scottish.
He is
There you go.
Scottish. He presents Love Island.
Ian
Sterling.
Yeah, it's Ian Sterling.
I got it first time.
Yeah, yes. Nice boy.
That's nice that you think I look like Ian Sterling.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
I would
There
take
we
that as an
go.
insult.
Right, that was a load of nonsense. We have got one final guest, very surprising last minute guest. He has been on the show before. He is a legend in the game of football. We last had him on the show the day before the Scotland-England game at Wembley, when he'd been called into the Scotland squad by manager Steve Clarke to help the team with the preparations. He's now been kept on to help Scotland prepare for their next round of World Cup qualifiers for the 2022 World Cup. He joins us now live from Hampden Park. It is marvellous Bob Doolally. Good evening, Bob. How are you?
Hi, good evening.
So Wembley, that must have been exciting.
I'm so excited. I mean, it's Scotland v England. Anyone who doesn't get excited by Scotland v England doesn't deserve to call themselves a football fan.
So how did you motivate the players before that game?
They need no motivation. The game itself, that's motivation. I mean,
Is it Mark Nelson?
Any player who motivated by playing for Scotland against England doesn't deserve to call themselves a football player. I mean, let alone wear that jersey and play for Scotland. No.
So you yourself must have been inspired.
Absolutely, yes. I remember once playing in a World Cup qualifying game against Italy in Rome, and we were 2-0 down at half time, and our heads were down, but the manager, he inspired us and made us want to go out and play in the second half. His words, that's what inspired players. Words, that's what motivates and inspires. The words he used, amazing. He just said, fucking go and get fucking stuck into those cunts, right? You're playing like a bunch of fucking cunts. Listen, these cunts are no better cunts than you cunts are. You daft cunt, for fuck's sake. What the fuck are you cunting about that? You're letting that cunt get past you every fucking time. Kick the cunt, for fuck's sake. Better fucking hospital. Look, don't worry about getting sent off. They'll miss him much more than we'll miss you. You, Delali, useless fucking cunt. You'll never play for Scotland again as long as I'm manager of this team. Rest you cunts, get out there, get fucking stuck in them. Get out there, get
And did it work?
Well, went out and played like a bunch of cunts.
Right, so we're in the World Cup. Do you think I would predict Scotland are going to qualify for this?
Well, I think only fools make predictions.
All right, okay. Thank you very much, Bob. We'll see you soon. Thanks.
He looks like you. That guy is like you.
Vlad McTavish. That's my final answer.
Right. We have got one final part of the show, which we call Desert Island Dicks.
That's a dick. There you go.
You all just have to run for let's keep it brief.
My dick doesn't look like
that. Mine doesn't look like
in white.
I'm tree up my Jap's eye.
Ollie is the Japanese correspondent.
I've only done once and never again.
We're going to talk about this on my podcast now.
Yeah, well, actually, now, intriguingly, Ollie, what do they call it in Japan?
Just an eye.
I don't know. I'm not very good at sexual terminology in Japanese, actually. Although I do know that there was a genuine job advert for an English teacher for prostitutes in Japan. It's a full-time job.
Did you take it?
No.
So
I was overqualified.
Did they want someone to teach prostitutes English, or did they want a prostitute to be an English teacher?
Yeah, well, no, it was that to service international clients, you know, to make sure. But I don't think you would end up actually having sex on the job. I think it was more of a classroom situation.
Oh. Well,
I was going to say, is it an oral exam? But never mind.
There we go. There we go. That's some comedy right there.
Is it an anal exam?
Done orally. Orally. There you go.
Yeah, she wasn't very good. She wasn't very good. So one of the students, she's really good with the students. She was always giving them a hand when they were behind with their coursework. Let's get on. Let's get on to.
There's also a pun available for the word grammar drills, because sometimes people say drilling when they're talking about sex.
Mm-hmm.
We're learning a lot today. We're learning a lot.
Yeah.
That Ollie still can't get a job as a prostitute. That's what we've learned.
Even though he's dressed as one in his flyer.
Exactly.
I look hot.
You sold yourself out. It's quite demeaning what you did to try and get ticket sales, Ollie.
It's less demeaning than you designing your own poster, Darius.
But since I've done that,
have you guys seen Darius' poster? Darius is unique in
image.
Fringe history that he's the first comedian to design a poster which doesn't have his own face or name on it.
Yeah. Let me show you what it looks like. Hold on.
Don't show the new one that you've redesigned after we told you it was terrible.
Oh, well, no. Well, that's the only one I'm going to show, obviously.
You know,
This is better
sometimes
than
when
it.
someone writes a sign by hand, they start with big letters at the beginning and the letters have to get smaller as they need to fill the space. Well, Darius did that despite designing it on a computer and having the ability to change things ex post.
Have we got it to hand? Have we got it?
I've got
Trying
it
to
here. I'm
find
just
it.
going to open it and then I'm going to
Because
share
otherwise,
my screen.
this just looks like Gogglebox.
Yeah.
That is a wank bank withdrawal right there. That really.
No, it's good. No, actually,
I
it does look
can't
good.
find it on my laptop now.
I've
Hey, you'll
found
see it
it.
in venues. Oh, you found the old one though. Where have you
Leo,
got the
can
new
you share
one?
your screen?
I know.
I guess the question is which one of Darius's laptops?
This is it. Can you
is
see it?
better?
Can you share your screen, Leo?
I'm sharing my screen.
We can't see it.
Well, why is it not?
We can see your face lighting
Can
up
you send it to Alex?
Ah, Chrome tab. Here, window. Here we go. Share. Can you see it now?
No.
No.
Oh, wait,
there.
that's quite good.
Look,
It's
look at
terrible.
look at the stars. Look at the stars at the top.
Absolutely not. It looks like Darius got 3 stars from one paper and then 2 1-star reviews
Two
from others.
ones.
And also, it looks,
I
it says-
changed it up. Show them the new one though and see which one.
It,
I
it
actually
also
quite like
says,
that
no,
one.
they don't want to see your vaguely
Leo,
confident one.
could you
Look,
zoom-
also,
could
it's
you-
also called Persian. How do I get it back? Persian uncown. Persian uncown.
I should have left that one.
Oh,
You should have just left it. I would have
Also,
gone with that one, Leo. If you had not said anything, I would have gone with that one.
despite the fact that
You're such an
Darius has
idiot.
access to the internet, he decides to create an arrow by doing 2 tabs and a greater than symbol to point to
Leo-
the biggest
Leo-
barcode in the world.
Leo, show the show the new one. But I would have done that. If you hadn't told me, I would have gone with that one as Persian uncown.
Why is the Free Festival logo smaller than anything, but Pay What You Want is the biggest logo in the world?
I don't know. Listen, I'm not a designer.
Economics.
Are you really not
I
designing?
did the stars like that because I knew it would just annoy people's OCD. and the question mark's just a little bit too low out of the middle.
Why isn't
It's
your
a
name
very
on the
niche
poster?
audience you're going for. It's a very niche audience you're going for. These
I changed it. Show them the new one, Leo. Leo, show them the new one.
I can't be bothered.
All right, I'll find it.
This is the
Right.
one year where Darius's show could get sold out, but all he's appealing to is anti-OCD people. That's all he's appealing to. I don't want normal people to come and watch my show. I want those ones who can spot the problems. This is it.
I've changed it now. This is what it now looks like. Hold on. Let me show you.
This is better than Desert Island Dicks. This is so
It
much.
is better than Desert. Should we just not bother doing Desert Island Ticks?
No. This is basically a workshop on how to fuck up your Edinburgh show. First of all,
How do I share? What I share?
Oh yeah. Also, Jay Darius wanted to ask if you could be director on his Edinburgh show.
Brilliant. Yeah.
I don't do right. You should be sharing that. What? Okay, I know you can. I know you.
Oh, this is the new poster.
Can you open your Reddit, please?
Hold on. This is it, is it? Well, I don't know what I'm on.
It's
That's
just
my
the
new
logo
poster.
font. It's just
Are you sending that to print? A photograph on Photoshop?
Why did you take a photo of the computer screen?
Because I couldn't find it properly. It looks quite good, right?
Well, I mean,
Are you sure you're not a designer, Darius?
That's my Reddit.
okay. Just a quick shout out to anybody who's thinking of going to Edinburgh. At least 2 shows. If you don't want to see them, is Ollie's and Darius's just because the posters. Go see Leo.
I
see Leo.
think, Jay, that after the last 2 minutes, going to be nobody bothering watching this fucking show.
You know what? I'm furious I didn't go with the original Persian
I don't want to
uncovered
watch this shite and clicking off.
You watch those refunds come back. You watch those refunds. Look at that.
Right.
No refunds. Once the tickets are sold, we don't give our money back. No.
No, you don't. No, definitely not. Fuck 'em.
Alex, if you're listening to this, no refunds. What final sale? Boy.
Listen, it's been a pleasure having Ollie, Leo, and Darius on the show. I guess we did do final plugs in terms of we've shows and posters that go with those shows. But quick final plugs. So let's start off with Leo. Quick final plug for your show.
Yeah, come and see my show, Cancel Culture. Here's where it is, 6 p.m. at the Three Sisters. And follow me on YouTube. I put up a lot of content on YouTube. I've got like loads of followers and stuff. So do that as well. Leo Kearse on YouTube.
Lovely. And Ollie?
I'm going to be seeing some of the Laughing Horse Pick of the Fringe. I just wanted to see if Alex could respond quickly at 7:30 every day. So that's what I'd like to plug, please. Laughing Horse Pick of the Fringe, 7:30 in Maggie's Chamber.
Brilliant. And Darius's show.
Come and see my show. He hasn't got a graphic ready for me because he doesn't know what the name is. Then it was formerly called Persian Uncone, but Alex, in a late change of affairs, because Leo mocked my show, I changed it with the Fringe. It's now called Don't Be Shit, resulting in a spike in ticket sales. That's at 3:45 p.m. at B32 or something. Below 32.
I don't know where it is.
I do. It's the counting house.
Don't be brilliant. You're on before me.
And Hating Live at 10:30 at Maggie's Chamber. Hating Live's doing very well, so if you want to come, make sure you get your tickets for that.
Yeah, we sold loads of tickets already.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm at 5 p.m. at the Counting House. The 2020 revision, which is the comedy review of the year that was cancelled. And I'll be doing Pick of the Fringe at 3 Sisters as well. Listen, folks, one final plug. CJ SODAGAR at home in St Albans once he's quarantined after Cyprus is put back in the red list. One final plug for this show itself. Please do support online comedy. We're so used to saying support live comedy and support online comedy and help expect to put this show together. Scan the QR code or go on PayPal.me/Freefest Online. We'll be back at the end of August. Yeah, we actually be back from the Edinburgh Fringe, live at the Edinburgh Fringe, the last Thursday. I think that's Thursday the 26th. Something like that. Some fucking Thursday or other. Yeah, Thursday the 26th of August. We'll be live from the Three Sisters, probably featuring most of the guests on the show tonight. Guys, enjoy.
We can ruin online shows and live shows.
We can ruin online shows. What we can do, Darius, is we can just do a show where we all bring our.
You crashed, but I'm sure it was funny.
It wasn't. It wasn't. I intentionally crashed myself. Oh, that's a shit gag. I'll try and fade out.
Cool.
Okay, folks. Thanks for watching. See you all soon. Cheers. Bye now.
Bye.